So if everyone's got access or can see a little a booklet that Sherry's done, we're going to basically follow what that book's about. Today I've been given the task of doing the starting couple of pages and then giving you a rough overview of what's coming up. So the speakers past me, they gave all the better speakers the good stuff. All right, I get because I'm not so good, so I get the easy one. All right. So what we see around us is evidence. Evidence of God's creation. Evidence of design especially. And that's what we see in the world around us. So that verse that's up on the screen there, taken from Psalm 139, says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvellous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. So when we look at verses like that from the Bible, fearfully and wonderfully made, the Psalms show that we have been designed by God. So we use things every day, don't we? We would have come here in a car perhaps. We use washing machines, we use computers, we use all types of things in our everyday life. Now, if we see all that, we know that someone designed those things. They didn't happen by chance. They didn't suddenly appear. Someone designed them, and someone designed them for a purpose, for a use. The design of our world and ourselves is exactly the same. It's been designed and done for a purpose. And that's what the natural world we see around us, that's what it is. So these things, keep these things in mind as we go through and look at the different things that we're going to look at. Keep in mind that everything is done and it's done for a purpose. So, what we believe. So what I'm going to go through now is basically we are Christadelphians. We believe in the scriptures. We believe God wrote the scriptures, that he caused it to be written by men, and that's what we have today and read and understand as his word. And we don't question that at all. So the plan on showing the design of things and how the things work is to confirm that as a basis, all right, to understand that that is part of what we believe. So we believe, firstly, that there is one God, and we believe that his word is the Bible, and we believe that came from him. We also believe in a 6-day creation. Now, I know there's a lot of different understandings and different beliefs out there as far as creation goes. A lot of theistic evolutions. Now, that means, yes, God started everything off, but it's still this billions of years understanding of how things came to be, and everything's still the design and chance and all that sort of thing. So we believe in a literal 6-day creation, and the 7th day God ceased from his work because God doesn't need to rest. We believe that God created everything, and that without him there is nothing. So God is at the centre of everything. Without him, we don't exist, nothing else exists. Because you read the first words in Genesis, says the world was without form and void. God moved on the face of the deep. So we understand that without God there isn't anything. And as I said before, everything's done for a purpose. Everything we believe is done for a reason. And the purpose is in the gospel. So the gospel we know and understand to be the things concerning the kingdom of God and the name of Jesus. And these things are subjects all on their own. I'm not going to go in and try to explain all these things as we go through this afternoon, but what I'm going to do is just keep that in mind as we go through and we look at other things. Keep in mind what everything is about. And we believe that this gives us hope. Hope beyond what we experience now as mortal humans. So this is the basis of what we believe. I mean, there's a lot more to it, and it would take me hours to go through and explain it all in depth, but this is the basis of what we believe. And this design of the natural world that we're going to look at is about confirming that belief. Because if we believe in God, all the other things follow and fall into place. And that's really what this is all about. So, our challenge. This is what we want to do with everyone here. We want you to have that understanding of God as the great designer, and also show the proof that there is a message contained in the Word. All right. Okay, so Acts 17 up on the screen there. For this purpose was the nations to seek after God and perhaps feel their way towards him and find him, though he is not far from any of us. For in him we live and move and exist. And as some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring, and since this is true, we shouldn't think of God as an idol designed by a craftsman from gold or silver or stone. So what is that verse up there talking about? It's talking about that God's real and we have to come to him. All right? He's not going to seek us out. It's up to us to go to him. But once we do, he's not far from any of us. And not only that, he's not in anything that we see. All right? He is, immortal, invisible, and all that. So this will be our challenge over the next few weeks for us to go through and hopefully prove all this. So, what are we going to focus on? So we have to keep that big picture in mind. Keep the big picture of saving us from our mortal selves, giving us eternal life in the kingdom. What is our focus? We are mostly going to look at design, and that's what's in the books, and that's what is going to be the focus of our seminars over the next few weeks. And we'll show God's handiwork in the world around us. We will look at things like smallest things, like our cells, the power of our brain that controls our body and the makeup of that. We will look at things like animal design, how that is, human design, even down to plant life and how that all works together. And we will look at the structure of our planet, where it sits in the universe, how all that works together, the so-called Goldilocks idea where we're sitting in exactly the right place with exactly the right amount of heat, cold, summer, winter, spring and harvest and all this sort of thing. That's what we want to look at. This isn't at all by chance. It's all by a design. It's all put together by a designer. Look at things like the water cycle, how the rain falls, runs into the sea evaporates, the water goes, the clouds go back over the thing. We have this water cycle, otherwise we'd all be out of water, the seasons, and even the stars and the planets around us. So, if you have a look at the cover page of the little booklet, it has this little guy on the front. So what do we think about when we look at this? Exactly, yeah, no, that's right. No, please, if I ask a question, please feel free to speak up, or if you want to ask questions, again, up, whatever, just whatever. Yeah, it's like a machine, isn't it? It's got cogs, gears, belts, pulleys, and looks like it could, move the arms, move the legs, turn the head perhaps. It could all sort of work a little bit as the human would work, maybe, in motion anyway. So is this perfect, do you think? You think it could perform all the functions that a human could perform? No, of course not. It looks like it's been designed pretty well. Looks like it's got the basic shape, got the basic functions. But what's it missing? Brain, exactly. Hasn't got a brain, doesn't have a heart, all right, has no feeling, has no understanding. It can't experience anything, doesn't have abilities, can't have joy, can't have fear, can't have hate, can't have love, all right? Can't feel sadness. It can't create anything. Doesn't create art, doesn't create music. Can't tell a story and make us laugh, make us cry. Can't do any of that sort of thing. And it can't comfort anyone. And it can't serve God. And that's really what we as humans are meant to do. So what eventually is going to happen to our little fella up here? What do we think is going to happen to him? What do you reckon, Lucas? Yeah. He'll probably fail. Power source will run out, whatever's powering it. Might get pulled apart for parts. They might, if there's no one there to sort of pick him up and make him work, he's not going to do very well at all. He might get dismantled, might get put into storage and forgotten about. And that is a pretty raw and basic design, isn't it? If we're going to try and recreate a human. Pretty raw, pretty basic design. All right, so who's this guy? Very good, Tammy. Very good. Yes. Bit of an upgrade from the last one we saw, even though it is kind of, science fiction, but nevertheless an upgrade. They had this guy come about, do we know? Cyberdyne Systems actually created him, all right? It has a computer that can adapt and think for itself. It has a power source that'll last for 120 years. He has very nice eyes. He can be covered in human tissue. He can travel through time and find Sarah Connor. All right? Agreed? Yep. Cool. So what do we think about when we see him? Is he is he more of an upgrade than the last guy? Yep. He's pretty good, isn't he? And even though he was, Cyberdyne's is an American system, he does speak in a pretty heavy Austrian accent. Okay. He's not a very nice guy. He does tend to hurt people. And he's not very nice. So what's going to happen to him? Well, he does get crushed in a hydraulic press. And he gets melted in a big, smelter. And I can't remember what else happened, but he does get killed off pretty well. He certainly doesn't last. But in all seriousness, all right, whether we're looking at the little motion robot from the last slide or this science fiction upgrade, they were all designed by people, by humans. They were all put together for a reason. It happened. And they weren't just, if we took that other guy, that first guy that we saw and buried in the ground and come back a few years later and dug him up, he wouldn't be this guy. All right? It doesn't work that way. It's thought about and it's worked on for a reason, for a purpose. All right. Who knows what that is?
Handheld phone.
Yes, a very old handheld phone. All right.
From the 1890s, way before mobile phones.
Kind of looks like someone stuck an aerial and painted some numbers on a house brick, doesn't it? Because funnily enough, its nickname was the brick. That's what it was called. And apart from being used in Mortal Kombat, it was the first functioning handheld mobile phone. And it had one function. It made calls. And it could receive calls. So maybe two functions. But that's all it did. It cost around $3,000 to buy in 1984, I believe, and cost about $20 to make a 10-minute call. So it was expensive to buy and expensive to run. So when your mobile phone gets unlimited text and calls for $60 a month, don't whinge about it too much, all right? Because they weren't always that good. So that was, first mobile phone, invented by a guy by the name of Martin Cooper. Now, he didn't do it all himself, he didn't build it. It was developed by a company called Motorola. They put a lot of time and money and a team and the whole thing, and they built it, put it together, got the whole thing working, and then it was connected to the network so it could call other mobiles and landlines. You guys don't know what a landline is, do you? No. Landline's what we used to use before everyone had mobiles. All right. And the AT&T network put it together so it could all work. All right. So all these things had to come together, the designer, the developer, and the one that powered, so that someone could pick up and make a call in 1984, 85. Whenever these came out. Now this is a very simple function by today's standards, but nothing happened by chance. Nothing happened all by itself, at all. It was all put together, and it was a lot of work for something that's very obsolete now. So this is something that's a little bit more well known, isn't it? Everyone knows what these are. So, bit more what we're used to, all right? That's an iPhone, so it's an Apple one. So about 40 years down the track, the iPhone 16 comes out. It costs $1,000 less than the original one. About $2,000. That's to buy the expensive one. If you buy, you can get them a lot cheaper. But the other ones is about $1,000 less than that one. And this was developed by Apple. As we know, Apple, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, huge company, absolutely huge. Big team working on to put these things together. And it has thousands, literally thousands of functions that this machine can do. Calls, texts, you can search the web, you can get your emails, you can go on applications you can download and do pretty much anything, find out anything. You can watch your TV on it, you can watch movies on it, you can stay connected to groups and send your group texts out to people. There's so many different things that it can do. All right, it can be your car key. You can use it to unlock your car and start your car. You can use it to do your banking, walk up with your phone and tap the thing, like this little thing over here, and transfer money. You can use it to control things in your home. On your way home, you can dial up and start your air conditioner if it's a bit hot. You know, you can do all these things and all this stuff with something as simple as this phone. Now, unlike the other one, it's extremely complex and can do a lot more functions. And maybe in 40 years, there'll be, this will be obsolete. Who knows? So how did we get from the brick we saw in the last one to this? Did it all just come apart? Did someone bury a brick in the ground and then go and dig this thing up? No, they didn't. People worked on this. People designed it. People improved it. People worked on it for months and years and years and years. And this applies to anything. Appliances. How much better are appliances these days? We've got vacuum cleaners that you set and forget or go around and do it all for you. It's unbelievable. Cars are the same. Even simple gadgets, potato peelers and Things like that. How easy is it? So why are we looking at this? We wouldn't think for 1 second that something like this would happen all by chance. We wouldn't think for 1 second that this would all just fall into place and be there. It was developed, it was put together, it was designed, improved, maintained, all by people. So this being the case, if this is true, why would we think for a minute that us as humans are any different? Why would we think for a minute that we are different? Our bodies, how complex are they? We have things like a brain and a nervous system that controls and sends signals to different parts of the body to make them move and work together, and they control everything. We've got a framework, we've got a skeleton that makes us be able to stand up and move and lift things, and muscles that are connected, and tendons and everything that's all connected together. It controls our movement. We've got things like organs and limbs, like our skin is an organ. It surrounds us and keeps us all from, falling apart everywhere. We've got, limbs that can lift and things like that. And not only that, take in the things that control the senses, like our eyes. And we're going to look at those a little bit later on. The eyes are absolutely amazing. Our ears, our nose, our sense of smell and touch and taste. And our senses are unbelievable. These things that we have, and all these things can be enhanced and developed, people that use them for their jobs. Like if someone has got really good sight or really observant, like detectives and stuff like that, they can look at something and they can see exactly how things happen. You've got, people that do hearing, sound engineers, people that are musicians. They can hear things differently to other people. Taste and smell. Chefs can smell something or eat something and they can know the ingredients and how it's all put together. And think about doctors and surgeons with their touch, or, down to masseuse or whatever. They can use touch to find out what's wrong with you and help heal it. But not only that, what about our ability to choose our emotions, to make choices, to be able to experience the things like love, like joy, like anger, the fact that we can problem solve, see something that's difficult, we can work a way around it, and we can work around it and find out a way to improve it. And what about our creative abilities? What about people who can paint, people that can do artistic things, do sculpture or whatever, people that can do music, people that can write stories that can make us laugh or make us cry or whatever. We have all these experiences as humans, and they are absolutely amazing. And nothing that we have put together, all those things we put up before with the robots and the phones and things, nothing even comes close to this, to exactly what God has put together. We are of absolutely amazing design. There is only one thing that can really put this together, and it's that it's come from God, come from a more intelligent design than us, because we are absolutely put together amazingly. All right, so We're going to have a quick break for a few minutes. Sherry's put together some food there. If someone would like, if you want to grab something, get a drink, 5 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll keep going. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, not halfway through when we stop, so don't have to put up with me for as long. All right, so just before the break, we talked about the design of the human and did a very brief overview of that. So, and looking at all the other things we've looked at as far as design goes, we have to imagine and we have to understand that none of this happened by chance, that we were designed, and designed for a reason, and designed by God. And if we believe that, then we have to think about what our responsibility is to Him. Because we've got verses like this in Genesis chapter 1, so God created human beings in His own image. In the image of God created He them, male and female, He created them. All right, and then the next chapter, some people think this is a different creation, but it's not. It's just a more detailed of the original one. And God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed the breath of life into man's nostrils, and man became a living person. And that's how we came about. Fully functioning exactly like we are today, 6,000 odd years later, it's exactly the same. And it wasn't just then that God creates things, it's every human since then. God has a hand in. It's not all because of us, it's because of Him. Because Jeremiah says, God speaking about him, he says, "Before I formed thee in the belly I knew thee, and before thou comest forth out of the womb I sanctified thee, and ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." So God is fully in control of all of us, and we're all part of His creation. So, the burning question, which I'm sure you're all thinking about. If God designed us, and why is there still sickness and death? If God is so perfect, and He is perfect, why do we have sickness? Why don't we live on and on and on and on forever? Why do we die? What is the reason behind that? Quite simply, sin. Because we did the wrong thing, because we went away from God, that's why we are in the position we're in right now. Because we looked in Genesis 1, Genesis 2, Genesis 3. So the woman gets deceived by the serpent, says that if you disobey God, you're not going to die, you'll just have all this knowledge and understanding. And it says, the woman was convinced, and she saw that the tree was beautiful and that the fruit looked delicious, and she wanted the wisdom which it would give her, that she took some of the fruit and ate it, and she gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it too. And at that moment their eyes were opened, and then suddenly they felt shame of their nakedness, and they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. So Genesis 1 and 2 is your creation. Didn't take long before we failed. And everyone from then on, with one exception, has failed and sinned. And that's really the crux of what we want to get to with all this stuff about nature and how things are put together and about the design, is the reason why we're designed this way and what the purpose of it is. Because we have an understanding from the scriptures about, we mentioned before about Jesus. He's the way away from this and back to God. All right? So keep that in mind. So part of my, what I had to do was to give you a bit of a rundown on what's coming up. So We're going to run through that now, and then I've got a little slide at the end to finish off. So, over the next few weeks, this is what we're going to look at. We will look at things from chance, how that all works, design and chance. We look at the beauty that's in nature. Look at things like the brain, how that works, the cells and the functions and the electricity and all that stuff that works in the brain. And we look at designs in nature. That's what those little gear wheels that we see there. We understand how gear wheels work from our first photo of our little robot man up there. That's actually in an animal. So hopefully that'll be interesting when that one comes up. So also look at things like complexity of some of the animals with our giraffe there and how they were able to have that extremely long neck and still be able to go down to drink. Things like simple things like our breath, how that simple function of drawing breath in and out, how that all happens and the amazing things that have to happen for that to work in. And the little Goldilocks story down the bottom there, how our planet sits in the universe, perfect distance from the sun and all that. Look at things like gravity and Isaac Newton and how he came up with his theories and his explanations. He was a God-fearing man, a Christian as well. Look at whales. Now, whales get a special mention in the story of creation. Everything else is done in bits and pieces. Whales get a special mention because of their amazing being able to throw their 200-tonne bodies out of the water like they do was quite amazing. And of course, we'll cover off on more different parts of nature. And if you want to have a look at any of this beforehand, you can look at the Designwatch website, or there's a lot of this in the little booklet that everyone should have. We'll also look at things like how the Bible has survived, the amazingness in the design, God's design in that. Look at things like cells, miracle of birth, and of course more animals and nature and everything. So, and then towards the end of it, we're really going to bring it together as far as God and the Scriptures are concerned. Okay? Look at things like our faith. Look at things like our belief and how that leads to the evidence of the gospel message to Jesus about death, burial and resurrection, and how we have to be connected to Jesus, like we said before about Jesus was the way for us to go back to God. Because we went away from God when we sinned, Jesus is the way back, and we have to be baptised and connected to Him as the only way. And that's our part in God's plan. So, why do we have to look at all this, and why do we have to even show you all this evidence of design and how it all works together? Why do we have to show that the fact that there is a creator and a sustainer and a designer of everything that we see around us? Because the fact is, 166 years ago, Charles Darwin wrote the book The Origin of the Species. And it's really from then. Now, I'm sure before then there was people who didn't have a belief in God or didn't credit God with what he should be credited with in as far as design and creation. But they had nothing really to pin it to. Nothing at all. And even when you go back to ancient times, like the Egyptian Empire and the Greeks and all that, they all had they attributed something to intelligent design. It wasn't the right God, but they attributed it to intelligent design. And it wasn't until this book was written that they had, the people that didn't want to believe in God had something to hold on to. And that's really what this was about. So in 1859 is when Charles Darwin wrote this book. And they wanted to hold on it so that they could dismiss God, because these people, quite intelligent people, quite understanding, a lot of them are scientists, philosophers, all this sort of type of people. They hung on to it because if they confess the belief in God, then they have to look at their responsibility to it. Now, for those of you who are here within our meeting today, and we did the readings in Matthew chapter 21, if you look in that, they asked Jesus, by what authority are you doing these things? And Jesus said, I'll ask you a question, and if you give me an answer, I'll tell you. And he said, John, talking about John the Baptist, his baptism, was it from heaven or is it from men? And they couldn't answer it. They couldn't answer it because if they say, oh yeah, it was from heaven, then he was going to say, why didn't you believe him? If they say from men, the people were going to be disheartened because they believed John was a prophet, so they couldn't answer. It's the same thing with this. People don't want to know the responsibility that they have. And that's the other thing that we're going to look at as we go through. All right, last one. I said before we were going to look at the eyes. And they are simply amazing, aren't they? Amazing part of God's creation. They can focus on different things at different distances. They can control and transfer shape and understanding, light. They transfer an image to our brain. If something's wrong with us in our body, there are spots on our eyes that show up. And we're only just learning of this in the last 15, 20 years of how people's general health can be determined from how they look in their eyes. They are an absolute wonder of creation. So, what does the man that literally wrote the book on evolution and natural selection say? Okay, he says, I should have made this bigger, shouldn't I? To suppose that the eye, with all its contrivances for adjusting and focus to different distances, for admitting different amounts of light, and from the correction of the spherical and chromatic aberrations, that means things you can see, could have been formed by natural selection, seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest degree. So if the person that wrote the book, the person that everyone is clinging on to say that God's not part of it, this was his understanding of the human eye. And if this was created, why not the rest of it? All right. So, is there anyone got any questions or anything? No? All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening and putting up with me. I promise the speakers are better after me, much better. So over the next few weeks, Shari will put out on Messenger what's coming up, so you'll be able to see that. And so hopefully it's piqued your interest enough to keep coming along. All right, so